Okay. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Reading from Teachings of Lord Chaitanya book. So Lord Chaitanya protected against his being called the Supreme Lord, and he said, "My dear sir, I am an ordinary living entity. I cannot know the meaning of Vedanta Sutra, but Vasudev, who is an incarnation of Narayana, knows the real meaning of the Vedanta Sutra. No ordinary living being can interpret the Vedanta Sutra with his mundane education. In order to curb commentary on Vedanta Sutra by unscrupulous persons, the author Vasudev himself has already commented on the Vedanta Sutra by Srimad Bhagavatam. In other words, if the author himself explains the purport of his book, that is excellent. Nobody can understand the author's mind unless the author himself discloses the purport of his language. Therefore, Vedanta Sutra should be understood by the commentary of the author himself, which is Srimad Bhagavatam. Pranava or Omkara is the divine substance of all the Vedas. Omkara is explained further in the Gayatri Mantra as exactly explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. There are 4 verses in this connection. These verses are explained to Brahma, and Brahma explained them again to Narada, and Narada explained them to Vyasa. Therefore, the purport of the verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam comes down in the disciplic succession. It is not that anyone and everyone can make his own commentary on the Vedanta Sutra foolishly and mislead the leaders. Anyone who wants to understand Vedanta Sutra must read Srimad Bhagavatam carefully. Under the instruction of Narada Muni, Vasudeva compiled Srimad Bhagavatam with the purpose of explaining the Vedanta Sutra codes. Vedanta Sutra was written before Bhagavatam. After hearing from Narada Muni, Vasudeva commented on the Vedanta Sutra. By writing Srimad Bhagavatam, he collected all the essence of the Upanishads, the purpose of which was explained in the Vedanta Sutra. Srimad Bhagavatam is therefore the essence of all Vedic knowledge. That which is stated in the Upanishads and stated in the Vedanta Sutra is explained very nicely in the Srimad Bhagavatam. There is a passage from Sri Ishopanishad similar to one in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th canto, 1st chapter, the purport of which is that whatever one sees in the cosmic manifestation everywhere is the Supreme Lord's energy, which is non different from him. Therefore, he is the controller of all living entities and the friend and the maintainer of everyone. We should live by the mercy of God and by the things allotted to our particular living condition. Thus, one enjoys life and nobody should encroach or any other property on any other's property. In other words, the purpose of the Upanishads and Vedanta and that of Srimad Bhagavatam are one and the same. If anyone studies Srimad Bhagavatam carefully, he will find that all the Upanishads and Vedanta Sutras codes are nicely explained there. In Bhagavatam, also the subject matter is divided into 3. To establish the eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord, how to act in that relationship, and lastly, how to achieve the highest benefit from it. The 4 verses dealing with Aham Eva are the gist of the whole Bhagavatam, and this is very nicely explained as follows. I am the supreme center of relationship of all living entities, and my knowledge is the supreme knowledge. And the process by which I can be achieved by the living entity is called Abhideya. And by the Abhideya process, one attains to the highest perfection of life, love of Godhead. When one attains the stage of life, love of Godhead, then his life becomes perfect. The explanation of these 4 verses is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. In this connection, Lord Chaitanya gave a short description of the principles of the 4 shlokas of Srimad Bhagavatam as follows. Nobody can understand the constitutional position of the Supreme Lord, how he is situated, what are his transcendental qualities, what are his transcendental activities, how he is full with six kinds of opulences. These things cannot be understood by mental speculators or by one's academic education. These things are to be understood by the mercy of the Lord. And as he has been stated in the Bhagavad Gita, one who is fortunate enough to be favored by the Supreme Lord can understand all these explanations by the mercy of the Lord. So there are so many points to be covered. I think I'm going to stop here because there are several points that has been covered even in this 3 paragraphs actually. So going back up, right, the first thing, this is the conversation again continued where Lord Chaitanya is explaining about Omkara, right? What is the gist of all of this? So very clearly, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining that any time, right, anytime we are trying to understand the author's message, it is important that we understand from his perspective rather than creating like our own imaginary purport or our own imaginary of the meaning of what he's trying to say. So very clearly the disciplic succession is explained here that Krishna spoke this message to Brahma. Brahma then gave that message to Narada, and then Narada then imparted this message, and that's how to Vyasadeva, and that's how Srimad Bhagavatam has come about. So that's what is clearly being explained, that all the essence of Vedantas, everything is in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So if we are serious students of Srimad Bhagavatam, we get it. We really are going to get Krishna's mercy because he has imparted through the disciplic succession. So that's one important point, right? Following the disciplic succession and the love for Srimad Bhagavatam, which we are already doing it every morning. This is a big deal, actually. I think sometimes, we just kind of do the things every day and it becomes a routine, which is wonderful. But this is a great routine that we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam every day because Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna himself and we are bringing Krishna into our lives. So I'm just saying, like, it's a huge deal that we are able to attend the Srimad Bhagavatam classes every morning. So anyway, that's one important point. And then going down very nicely, it is also explained that the Vedas, the essence of all Vedas, and even in the Chatushloki Bhagavatam versus Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita verses also we heard from even last Sunday feast class, right? The 4 verses that are essence. What it says is really it is the Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. So what is that, right? Sambandha is that first when we learn is that who is Krishna, right? Who is Krishna? He is the Supreme Lord. He is the ultimate benefactor. He is the ultimate proprietor. And even from Sri Ishopanishad, right? The verse we know, Isha Vasham Idam Sarvam, Tatkincha Jagatam Jagat. So he is the complete proprietor, benefactor, and all of that. When we understand Krishna is that Supreme Lord, then what happens? When we know, right, somebody's position, we clearly understand who that person is, then what happens? Then we try to build a relationship with that person. And then we follow the process. So that's the devotional process that we are doing. And especially it is the hearing and chanting. We do that, we completely start developing the process. And then what is the ultimate fruit is the prayojan. When we keep developing this bhajana, kriya, the process continues, and then we ultimately develop that relationship, have that loving relationship with the Lord, and that's the ultimate fruit, prema, right? That's the ultimate fruit. So that's how this process really happens. And lastly, the very important point again being emphasized is it's not easy to understand Krishna. Can you imagine, even in Srimad Bhagavatam, like we have read through all these cantos so far, we are in canto 4, where canto 3 was really hard, where there was so much description of his opulences and the material creation and all of that. I mean, it's just mind blowing to understand all of those details. However, once we understand all of that, we just, with our limited capacity we try to understand what we can. However, because of Srila Prabhupada's mercy, because of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, we have been given this beautiful process of devotional service. So with this tiny, minute brain that we have, we don't have to make this over endeavor of trying to understand everything so much, but as long as we follow the devotional process and follow the sweet process of hearing and chanting and kirtana and serving him, Krishna gives us that intelligence. Again, it's said in Bhagavad Gita, right, that he gives us the intelligence by which we are able to understand him. Nobody can understand Krishna unless he gives his mercy, and with that, then we are able to understand him. So, just very beautiful message. Even just reading these three paragraphs, right, and again, what is our inspiration? What is our motivation to do all of this? Because you want to develop that relationship with the Lord and have that, ultimate fruit, like I said, is prema, but that's like a very high goal. But at least we know where we are going, and then we continue doing this process. And again, this process itself is so beautiful. So again, why complain, right? We had such a been given such this beautiful process, this sweet process. So we just continue doing that and start establishing and enhancing our relationship with the Lord. That I like to end and then continue for chanting. Thank you, Hare Krishna.